welcome back to another video here on more Pew Less QQ. And today we're looking at the top comps on the PBE so far for set 9.5. We're going to be going through them from 1 cost reroll all the way up to your 4 cost carries and everything in between. Of course, these are going to change. Riot does balance the PBE almost every second day. So this is more just a guide to know the basics of the comp, and once the season launches we'll go in depth into the meta comps and what's OP and what's not. But for now we're just going to go over the basics, so let's get started. And first up we have basically vertical demacia. So this is very much the same as set 9. You are rerolling for Poppy and Kale. You don't worry about Yordles anymore since that's been removed, so you're typically going to focus on putting the 2 Rage Blades on Kale. He does get Magic Shred, but if you have a static ship, it's still worth building that. And then the rest of the items don't really matter. Fiora gets Bruiser items, J4 likes a Vow, or you can go for Thieves Gloves on him instead if you want. It doesn't really matter. And some burn from Sunfire is always nice. Items are pretty flexible here as long as you hit Kale. And how you're going to play, you're just going to be lose spreeing early, so augments that give you eco or help you with the loss spree is pretty good, and then you just reroll for Kale and Poppy until you hit, and then you push levels, try to play level 9. But yeah, this comp can definitely win even if you don't hit level 9. 7 Demacia is very strong, you get a bunch of items. Just remember, you're always going to be getting the same Radiant items now. I believe that, for example, Fiora will always get the Sterax, which is a new item, Mega Shield. I think that Poppy always gets the Stone Plate, and J4 always gets this one, and so on and so forth. So you will be getting your items, and you can just see what you hit and itemize there. Make sure that they get the buffs. If you don't have an item on one of your Demacias, you just remove them, put them back, and then that one will get the Radiant item. Next up, we have 7 Bilgewater reroll. So this is going to be a level 6 reroll comp. Ideally you want to be played with 7 Bilgewater, else it does fall off a little bit late game. But here we're going to be rerolling to hit Nautilus and hit either Twisted Fate or Misfortune, ideally Misfortune. You can obviously also hit the 1 cost units, but ideally you want Nautilus for your tank items and you want Misfortune. Her core item is blue buff. She really needs that, and then you can just add damage on top of that, a little bit of sustain. She reduces shields, but she does not shred. With this build, you might want to include a Shiv or a Ionic Spark. So Shiv can go on Twisted Fate, Ionic Spark can go on Nautilus or Ilaoi. And there are a few really good augments for this comp. One of them is a new, and that's Rising Infamy. And this one will give you chests, similar to how pirates work, but the more times your cannon fires, the more chests you get, the better your chests are. And this is basically a eco augment that can get completely out of control. This reroll comp plays really well with Ancient Archives because you have a lot of things to hit here. Your board might typically be something like this. So any Bilgewater, any Bastion, any Strategist, any Gunner, Juggernaut, you can't hit Multicaster, but even Vanquisher, it's really, really good to hit here. So I definitely recommend playing this with Archives. You can play this with the Legend Earth that gives you Ancient Tomes, and yeah, that's pretty much it for this comp. Very fun. Next up we have 4 Rogue reroll. So this will be the 3 cost reroll comp of the set. You're going to be rerolling for Katarina Echo, doesn't matter which one you hit, and that's going to be the item combo. We're going to be using a new item on rogues from the set. That's the Night Harvester. This allows you to deal bonus damage, gives them a little survivability, but also triggers to 30% bonus damage once you've fallen below 60%, which it's going to be happening pretty quickly with our rogues, right? Since when they fall below 50%, they become untargetable and dash the backline. Well, this triggers at 60%. So Night Harvester triggers at 60%, your rogues dash to the backline, and yeah, they just start executing the backline carries. You can also, if you hit Kiana, you can play her. She's very good. She needs a bit more survivability because she doesn't have any sustain built in to her kit. I guess neither does Katarina, but Echo does. So yeah, you can build maybe with more sustain on Katarina and Kiana. And yeah, the units you add in, you just add in a Shen. You can drop the Taric. You just play him until you hit Shen. And you want to be playing 3 Ixtal, since that gives you the bonus hexes, which are very nice. Next up, we have Vanquishers, and there are a couple of ways to play Vanquishers. So the one way is if you hit the Vanquisher spat, then you are going to be playing all of them. This plays really well with Nyla as your main carry and Xayah as your off carry. You can itemize Xayah as well with your spare items, but mainly you're just going to be tanking Shen and carrying Nyla. And Rapid Fire Cannon was changed. It's now a really good item to stack and give your melee carry a range. And you can actually then backline certain melee carries. And Nyla benefits a lot from this, so does Mordekaiser, which we'll get into later. This is the board. You have a very interesting new augment that would make you definitely want to play Shen with this board, and that's going to be Stolen Vitality. So this reads, when your Vanquishers attack an ability's critical strike, they heal the ally with the most missing health by 3% of that ally's max health. So you can imagine Darius dies off, Shen dies off, Sujani dies off, and you've just got your Shen alive. Here, you're going to be perma-healing Shen every time your Vanquishers critical strike. Well, Vanquishers gain additional critical strike and critical strike damage, but it's giving you 55% plus the innate 25% of each unit. So you basically got almost 100% critical strike on all your units. It's 80% from off the bat. So they're just going to be permanently healing Shen, and he's never going to die. So that's a really cool way to play it. If you've got an Ashe, you don't need the Lost Whisper. This is just an example. You can replace that with anything, whatever. Or just, as I see a lot of people, they're just building a 3rd Rapid Fire Cannon. So yeah, this could be your board. And then there's another way to play the Vanquisher. So if you don't need the spat, there's 2 ways to play it. You could play it with the Ionia Bastion and Ixtal variation, where you play Milio and Nico, and you then just play 4 Vanquishers. And the other line is just to play vertical Ionia with the Vanquishers, because Vanquishers will give you 2 Ionia units. Then the Jhin as well as the Xayah are both Ionia, and in this case you want to primary carry your Xayah, so she will get the items. I'm not too sure if the optimal items on her is, but I'm guessing it'll be something like that. Let's just see the Ionia version. Rageblade IE, yeah, that's fine. So the Ionia version will look something like this, and you are just going to go for 6 Ionia. Typically it would be if you did hit a spat, but there's your last thing I want to mention about Vanquishers is that you should try to play long distance spells or social distancing. Any bonus ability and attack damage stack really well with critical strike because it's a multiplier, and long distance spells especially because you are duo carrying your Nyla and your Xayah. So this is exceptionally good in this comp. And next up, we are going to be looking at the boards, and these all revolve around Azir Carry. First one is going to be a little bit similar to what we remember from set 9. We got our Azir, Taliyah, and Nasus. But now, instead of Garen, we have Nautilus, and instead of Teemo, we have Twisted Fate. You can still play the Swain, and at level 8, typically in this board, we do actually play him. So if you go to Swain here, this could be a very typical board at level 8. Now we're going to play around 4 Shurima, and we are going to play around the new item. It's Nashor's Tooth, and this is extremely OP on Azir, since he costs a lot, right? You can read his ability here. Every 5th auto, because he's getting mana, every auto attack, he'll cost. So he summons a soldier, he gets 40% attack speed for 5 seconds, he summons again, he gets another 40% attack speed, that stacks. So that's very good on him. It's stacking with Rageblade, it just keeps pumping out damage. Yeah, the rest of the items do not matter. Nessus can get some tank items. I don't think it really matters that much. Just do the tank items that you have on your tanks. Then the next variation will be the more vertical Shurima comp. Here, instead of the Bilgewater, we're going to be adding 2 more Shurimas, Renekton, and we're going to be dropping the Nautilus for a Cassiopeia. And I know these are one cost, so this makes it a little bit cheaper. So it's a little bit easier to get to this board eco-wise. But then later we'll be replacing the Renekton for Cassante, and we will be replacing the Misfortune for Rise. So the 6 Shurima board does cap out very, very well. I will be looking to transition from this board to the board where we're playing Rise and Cassante. So this is more of a cap board, and you just play Azir Carry as well, and your tank items can go on Nasus, or you can item hold on Renekton and eventually transfer them over to Cassante. There are many really cool new support items that work really well with this comp, and one of them is going to be the Aegis of the Legion. So this one you can put like this, and it'll give your units that are directly next to it and behind it 30% attack speed. And obviously that's great with Azir, and also it gives them armor and magic resist, which stack really well with Shurima's healing. So that's it for Shurima. Next on the list is Noxus. So we have 5 Noxus for Slayer. So this is similar to a Noxus comp where you would play, if you remember from set 9, you would play Slayer Z with it, but this time instead it's going to be, we're going to be carrying with Slayer Mordekaiser. So Mordekaiser gives us a really, really good carry, and there's 2 ways to build him. So there's the Bruiser way, where you always only putting Nashor's Tooth on him, and then the Bruiser way will be playing like a Quicksilver and a Ionic Spark. Obviously, if you're playing a lot of Slayers, he gets Omnivamp from Slayers, so you don't need that much sustain on him, and you also get some extra HP from the Noxus trait. And this is one way you can play him. You can also put your Spark on Katarina and play something like a Bloodthirster on Mordekaiser. And the other way is to actually play him in the back line, and you play him with 2 or 3, I prefer 2, rapid fire cannons. And that's going to be really good as well. Then you obviously don't put Spark on him since he's not in range of any of the units, but he is an insane unit because his ability gives him on hit magic damage. But this goes up an insane amount while God of Death is active. So God of Death is pretty easy to get to. It's just 80 mana, and especially if he's attacking fast. And for 5 seconds, it stays active, meaning that he will gain a shield, and he will steal health, attack damage, ability power, basically all the stats of anyone he kills. So yeah, you can get away with not going much sustain on him, and I think both of those builds are viable. Second last comp we have is Challengers. Now this plays a little differently to set 9 where we had Yasuo. We don't have Yasuo anymore, and we also lost the Kalista. So we're not going to be playing around Yasuo as a bruiser, but instead we got Fiora, who's going to be leading us down the Demacia path. So Challengers plays really well with Demacia now, and I would think that this is almost always going to be combined, like we had Challenger and Ionia almost always playing together in set 9. And we're just going to be doing the same, playing the same items on Kai'Sa. There's a really good new support item, which is Obsidian Cleaver. That I believe that used to be an Ornn item, but it's now changed, and it gives your team bonus ability, power and attack damage, and also shreds for 15 seconds. So Kai'Sa applies this to the entire basically team, and it stays active for 50 seconds, and then she casts again, and it reactivates. So it's a very good item on her. This obviously build plays really well if you can get a Heimerdinger and put a Challenger spat on him. But even regardless, if this is just our level 7 board, or level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now getting the Aatrox might be difficult. You can replace this. Doesn't really matter. But the main thing is we want 3 Demacia. Because we want Fiora to get her Sterak's Mega Shield, her Radiant item, and we get Juggernaut with the Warwick. And it's really cool if we position something like this, and we can get the double Darkened Blade on Fiora. So that's very nice. There's not much to Challengers. It's pretty straightforward comp to play, and obviously augments that are very good with it would be still social distancing. It's one of the best. Anything that gives stats, so long distance spells, tons of stats, gifts from the Fallen. Those are still extremely good on challengers because they scale well with AD and AP. And then the final comp we have is going to be Sorcerers, and this one has changed just a little bit. We play it exactly the same as set 9, but instead of Lux, we play Silco, and guess what? He uses the same items as Lux. So blue buff or Shojin, blue buff is better, and then you want to go for spell crit. This is very important since Sorcerers will give you flat AP, so getting a multiplier on that. When you're getting 80 flat AP, you don't want to be building a Rabidance, you want to be building a crit, and then Gunblade. But how Sorcerers have changed is this is way more of a sustain comp now. So you're going to be looking at trying to out-sustain your opponents, because Silco's spell is not a burst spell like Lux's spell. Silco spell says he throws a vial at a nearby enemy, covering the adjacent hexes and shimmer. And enemies affected by the shimmer take magic damage per second, and your allies are healed for that. So it's very important that in this comp we have frontline items. So you want to stack your Shen and your Taric, because obviously Swain will die off, but you want these two guys to stay alive while Silco keeps throwing his vials. And with Targon you're going to be getting extra healing, and with Bastion you are getting extra stats to complement that healing, so these guys can stay alive for longer. So that's how that plays out. And when you hit Ahri, you can swap for Orianna. This comp can work with a Ionia spat. So that's the final comp. And there are quite a few other comps. You can take them out on meta.tft, but for the most part, I think these are the ones you're going to see, and these for me have been the most fun to play. So if you did enjoy the video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe. I will try to make bookmarks for the different comps in case you just want to you're in a game and you want to quickly browse between the comps just to check out some positioning, some quick item guides. I will be doing some in-depth guides for some of these comps before the PBE closes out. So please hit the bell if you want to be notified of those. Thanks guys and girls. Peace.